asking for favors, and ads pushing you to buy things you didn't even know you wanted. You haven't even had a sip of coffee, and already the world is demanding pieces of you. Most of us live like this. Every single day, reactive, overwhelmed, pulled in 100 directions. But what if you could flip the script? What if instead of stumbling into each day like a leaf tossed around by the wind, you could move through life like a strong, steady captain guiding a ship through stormy waters? That's the promise of Stoicism, a philosophy that isn't just about ancient Romans wearing togas and reciting quotes. It's about practical, everyday tools to help you master your mind, simplify your world, and finally find peace in a culture that profits from keeping you distracted and dissatisfied. Welcome to today's video. We're diving deep into how to actually live stoically in the modern world. I'm not here to preach dusty ideas or lecture you from pedestal. I'm here to share real, actionable strategies that you can start using today to transform the way you experience life. By the end of this video, you'll understand why Stoicism isn't about suppressing your emotions or giving up on ambition. It's about reclaiming your inner power so that no boss, no headline, no random stranger on social media can control your happiness ever again. Before we begin, do me a quick favor. If you find this content valuable, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our future deep dives into philosophy and self-mastery. And if this video really resonates with you, consider hitting the super thanks button below to support the channel directly. It helps us keep making high-quality, ad-free content for this amazing community. Now, let me ask you a question. Have you ever achieved something you thought would finally make you happy? A promotion, a new car, the latest phone, only to realize a few weeks later that the excitement had completely worn off? That's the hedonic treadmill in action. We adapt so quickly to external rewards that no matter how much we get, it's never enough. It's like running on a treadmill that never stops. You burn yourself out chasing happiness, but you never actually move forward. The Stoics saw this trap thousands of years ago. Seneca famously said, "Wealth consists not in hitting snooze, rushing through breakfast, gulping down caffeine, and sprinting into our workday with a frazzled mind." Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher king himself, wrote in his private journal, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Imagine starting your day with that kind of clarity. In this video, I'll show you how to craft a morning practice that anchors your mind like a lighthouse in a storm. Then we'll move on to reflection, where you'll learn how to turn every single day, yes, even the bad ones, into a source of growth and self-knowledge. We'll dive into the truth about money, exploring why more stuff won't fix the emptiness inside, and how to redefine wealth so you never feel poor again, no matter your bank balance. From there, we'll tackle deep understanding and intrinsic motivation so you can stop chasing external validation and start fueling yourself with purpose. And of course, we'll simplify everything along the way, because the simpler your life, the freer your mind. This isn't just theory. I'll be sharing real-world examples of people who've applied these Stoic principles to transform their lives, even in a world that's constantly trying to pull you off balance. So grab a notebook, silence your notifications, and let's get started. Oh, and remember, if you're finding value as we go, long-form, ad-free content for you, hit that super thanks button. Your support makes all the difference. Let's dive in. Picture the most ordinary American morning. The alarm goes off, your hand shoots out before you're even conscious, and your thumb knows exactly where the snooze button lives. By the time you finally sit up, your phone is already in your palm. Notification pour. And like a slot machine, emails from work, group texts that spun up overnight, breaking news, a flash sale that ends in 3 hours. 15 minutes slip by, and you haven't stood up, brushed your teeth, or decided what kind of day you want. You've let the day decide for you. The Stoic alternative is simple and tough in the way all good training is tough. Claim the morning as your domain. Ask one clean question: what would happen if you began with stillness and control instead of noise and hurry? Marcus Aurelius gives the backbone. You have power over your mind, not outside events. A Stoic morning is the daily proof that those are not just pretty words. Start with the choice that looks small and turns out to be decisive. Don't hit snooze. Snooze sounds harmless, but it teaches your brain that commitments are negotiable and that your first act of the day can be avoidance. Put the phone and the alarm across the room. Make standing up the path of least resistance. When your feet hit the floor, you've already tallied your first quiet win. You acted, you didn't drift. That single act creates a tone. It's not about heroism. It's about not lying too. System can stand down. Step in a light, open the blinds, step onto the porch, or just face a bright window. You're not doing wellness. You're aligning your biology with the job you want the mind. Then move your body, gently but deliberately. The Stoic frame here isn't get shredded. It's signal to the mind that we are active agents. 5 minutes of mobility, a brisk 10-minute walk around. The block, a short yoga flow, or a basic calisthenics set, push-ups to wake the chest, a plank to wake the core, air squats to get the hips online. The actual movements matter less than the message. You're teaching your brain to meet the day moving forward, not sideways. A coach I know tells new clients to do a hallway workout. You never leave the hallway. 10 squats, 10 wall push-ups, 20 marching steps, repeat for 5 minutes. It sounds almost silly until you notice that even a micro dose of motion makes your thinking snap and a focus faster than a scroll through headlines. Eat like you mean to focus. A breakfast of protein, healthy fats, and complex carbs is not a diet pitch. It's a performance choice. Eggs and avocado on whole grain toast. Greek yogurt with berries and nuts. Oatmeal stirred with peanut butter and a sliced banana. If you're not hungry, that's fine, don't eat. The rule is intentionality. Either fuel your brain properly or don't eat yet. But skip the pastry and sugar roller coaster that hands your attention to insulin for the morning. You want steady energy so your mind can do its real job. Now we come to the heart, clean the mind. 2 classic, time-tested options: meditation or journaling. 10 minutes of still, eyes soft, breath aware, sitting is enough. People complicate meditation until it becomes another thing to fail at. Don't. Sit, notice the breath, and notice when your attention wanders. Gently bring it back. That is the rep. You are not doing nothing. You are practicing the precise muscle Stoicism asks you to use all day, returning to what you control. If meditation feels impossible, journal. Morning pages are a great entry point. 3 longhand pages of whatever crosses your mind, unedited. It looks like a brain dump because it is one. You clear the static, you find a thread, and by page 2 you're already deciding what matters. A CEO I worked with swore by morning pages for a year, while turning around a struggling division. She didn't write genius aphorisms. She wrote, "I'm anxious about the 10 a.m. with finance, and I keep avoiding the conversation with Leo." On the 3rd line, she'd write the obvious. Call Leo at 9:30. Write questions for finance by 9:45. It wasn't therapy. It was clearing out the fear noise so her executive brain could work. Her team noticed she started 10 a.m. meetings calm, direct, and 2 steps ahead. She hadn't changed her personality. She'd changed her mornings. If you're more coder than CEO, the same principle holds. A senior engineer I know began a 10-minute meditation before opening the editor. He didn't chant or sit on a cushion. He sat in a chair, set a timer, watched his breath, and noticed how fast. His brain sprinted into fix that bug in the payments module territory. The practice wasn't to banish those thoughts. It was to notice the sprint and slow it down. After 2 weeks, he stopped bouncing between files. He worked a single issue to completion before touching the next. His commit quality improved. His manager didn't praise his mindfulness, she praised his predictability. Layer in a spiritual primer that tunes your moral instrument. Read a page of Stoic text or a short quotation that sets the day's principle. Marcus, Seneca, Epictetus, a paragraph is plenty. Don't treat it like a museum plaque. Treat it like a 2x4. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Ask yourself the American question we love because it's practical. Okay, so what will I do with that at 11:15 a.m. when the client email lands wrong? Maybe your answer is a micro protocol. Step away for 60 seconds. Read the email once. Ask, what part is outside? Events. Rewrite the reply to address only what you control. That is Stoicism in the wild. The most common pushback to all of this is time. I have kids. I have a commute. I start at 7. Of course you do. The way around that isn't magical discipline. It's design. Put the phone to charge in the kitchen. If it's in the bedroom, it wins. Set your alarm tone to something you won't want. To linger in a chime, not a lullaby. Lay out your clothes the night before. Prep a 5-minute breakfast you can assemble blind. Write a 3-line plan on an index card by the coffee maker. Hydrate. Breathe, move, read, journal, go. You don't need an hour. You need a sequence. If you only have 15 minutes, do 5 minutes of movement, 5 minutes of journaling, 2 minutes of reading, and 3 deep breaths. Do it every weekday for a month. The mind likes rhythm more than it likes grand gestures. Use habit stacking to make the morning run on rails. Attach the new practice to a thing you already do without fail. After I brush, I drink water. After I drink, I do 5 minutes of movement. After I move, I read a paragraph. After I read, I write 5 lines. After I write, I look at the day's top task and say out loud, just start. Say it. Americans talk to themselves more than we admit, and it works. A whispered, just start, beats a perfect plan you'll never execute. If you want immediate proof that the ritual matters, try a 3-day A/B test. On days A, live as usual. Phone first, sugar breakfast, email before you're fully awake. On days B, run the Stoic. Jerk around by it. There's room for personalization without losing the core. If you're faith-based, weave in a verse or a short prayer as you're reading. If you're an athlete, let the movement be a short mobility circuit from your coach. If you're a teacher, read a paragraph that anchors you for your students, something that reminds you to respond, not react when the room gets loud. If you're a nurse coming off nights, flip the ritual to your wake-up time, even if it's 4 p.m. The principle is the same. Begin with ownership. The phone is the main saboteur. You don't have to be a monk. You have to be honest. If you touch the phone before you've moved, read, and written, you've elected to let other people's priorities set yours. Put a sticky note on the screen that says after ritual. Use do not disturb with a white list so family can reach you in a true emergency. Turn off badges. Uninstall the worst offenders for a week and notice what happens. You're not quitting technology. You're making it wait its turn. People worry that a ritual makes life rigid. The opposite happens. A ritual gives you a steady platform from which you can flex without snapping. When the day goes sideways, as it will, you recover faster because your mind woke up on your terms. A firefighter I interviewed described it perfectly. We don't control the calls. We control our readiness. The Stoic morning is readiness training for civilians. Food for the skeptic. What if you just hate all of this? Then think like an American pragmatist. Run a useful experiment. For 2 weeks, I will act as if these practices help. At the end, I'll keep what worked and ditch what didn't. You don't have to swallow a philosophy to benefit from its tools. Plenty of people who never use the word Stoic still do the work. They don't snooze, they breathe, they move, they write, they read something that reminds them who they'd like to be by lunchtime. The label doesn't grant the benefits the actions do. You can build small, if thin cards to handle predictable morning ambushes. If I wake up anxious, then I will write down exactly what I fear for 2 minutes and circle what I control. If I wake up late, then I will do the 2-minute version of the ritual: 10 squats, 1 paragraph, 2 sentences of plan, and leave without apology. If the kids are melting down, not the 10 things you could do, the one thing that, if done cleanly, makes the day a win. Write on an index card, carry it, and check it at lunch. If your afternoon is flooded, look at the card and buy yourself 30 minutes to make that one thing true. Nothing trains the mind faster than consistent evidence that your priorities get done. All of this sounds disciplined because it is, but it doesn't have to be grim. Put a mug you like next to the journal. Play the same quiet song while you write so your brain learns, oh, this is the part where we settle. Sit in the same chair by the same window. Rituals are not chores. They're reliable places your mind can land. Americans romanticize freedom as doing whatever we want whenever we want. Real freedom looks different at 6:30 a.m. It looks like doing the small, unglamorous things that let you steer instead of getting dragged. If you want a motto that fits on a post-it and works in the locker room or the boardroom, try this. Control the morning, control the day. It's not a guarantee that nothing will go wrong. It is a guarantee that when it does, you'll be the kind of person who responds instead of flailing. The habit of not snoozing, of breathing, of moving, of feeding your brain, of clearing your head, of reading a line that sets your moral direction, of writing what matters, these are the quiet, repeatable ways you claim the one thing Stoicism says is truly yours, your mind. And when you practice that claim before the world gets a crack at you, you don't become invincible. You become reliable for your work, for your people, for yourself. Control the morning, control the day. In today's world, it's incredibly easy to get caught in the grind. Most people wake up, rush through the morning, sit in traffic, slam coffee while scrolling through emails, power through back-to-back meetings or classes, grab dinner on the run, maybe squeeze in a workout, and then collapse in a bed only to do it all again the next day. It becomes a blur. Days start to feel interchangeable, like you're stuck on a treadmill. And because life moves so fast, few people actually stop to pause, think, and ask themselves the simplest questions. What happened today? Did I live according to my values? Did I grow, or did I just survive? Socrates said, "The unexamined life is not worth living." That's not just a lofty quote for philosophers. It's a call to action for anyone feeling stuck. If you don't take time to examine your life, you can easily end up years down the road wondering how you got there, or worse, feeling like you've been living someone else's script the entire time. The Stoic practice of reflection offers a way out of this cycle. It's not about beating yourself up for mistakes or replaying awkward moments like a bad highlight reel. Instead, it's about calmly reviewing your day with curiosity and intention. Think of it as a mental debrief, the same way a great sports team reviews game footage or a CEO reviews a quarterly report. You're gathering information, looking for patterns, and using what you learn to grow. This kind of reflection helps you become a better version of yourself, little by little, without the guilt and shame that often come with self-criticism. A simple way to structure this daily review is with 3 steps: highlights, learning, and growth. Start with the highlights reel. At the end of the day, pause and recall the good moments. What made you smile? What felt meaningful? Maybe it was nailing a presentation at work, or maybe it was something as small as sharing a laugh with a friend or making it home in time for dinner with your family. These don't have to be monumental victories. Sometimes the highlight of your day might be that you finally took a 5-minute walk outside or said no to something that would have stretched you too thin. By acknowledging these positives, you train your brain to notice them more often. It's like strengthening a muscle of gratitude. Neuroscience shows that when we consciously reflect on what we're grateful for, it actually rewires the brain to be more optimistic and resilient. The second step is what I like to call the learning curve. Here, you look at the day's challenges and setbacks through a problem-solving lens rather than a judgmental one. Maybe you snapped at a coworker, procrastinated on an important task, or bombed a sales call. The goal isn't to dwell on how awful it felt, but to ask, what happened there? What can I learn from it? Athletes do this all the time. After a game, they don't just celebrate the wins or wallow in losses. They review footage, break down plays, and identify what to adjust for next time. Think about someone like Kobe Bryant watching hours of game tape, pausing and rewinding to study his own moves and those of his opponents. He wasn't doing it to shame himself, but to improve. You can do the same in everyday life. If you had a difficult conversation with your spouse or manager, mentally replay it and notice where it went. Off track. Were you tired? Defensive? Distracted? By pinpointing the variables, you can approach similar situations differently in the future. One of my friends works in tech, and he treats his code reviews almost like Stoic reflection. When a project goes sideways, Instead of blaming his team or venting endlessly, he sits down at the end of the day and goes through the commits line by line. He asks himself not only, where did the bug occur, but also, where did my thinking go wrong? Did I miss a pattern because I was rushing? Did I ignore a warning sign because I didn't want to deal with conflict? Over time, this practice has made him calmer under pressure and far more effective as a leader. He told me once, it's not about perfect code. It's about becoming the kind of developer who learns faster than the problems pile up. That mindset applies to more than just software. The final step is creating a growth plan for tomorrow. This is where reflection turns into action. After celebrating your highlights and extracting lessons from challenges, ask yourself, how can I be 1% better tomorrow? The key is to keep it small and specific. Maybe you realize that you tend to get irritable when you skip lunch, so your plan is simply to pack a healthy snack for the next day. Or maybe you notice you've been avoiding a hard conversation, so your growth step is to. One CEO I know has a ritual she calls 3 good things. Every night before bed, she writes down 3 things that went well that day. They could be big wins or small joys. Sometimes it's close day, major deal. Other times it's got through my kids' bedtime without yelling. After listing those, she writes 1 sentence about what she'd like to do differently tomorrow. That's it. She swears this 5-minute habit has done more for her leadership and mental health than any expensive seminar or productivity hack. When she skips it for a few days, she notices herself becoming more reactive and less grounded. The practice keeps her focused on what she can control. Athletes take this to another level with visualization. Michael Phelps famously visualized every detail of his races before competing. He'd imagine not just the perfect swim, but also what he'd do if his goggles filled with water or if he botched a turn. This mental rehearsal prepared him to stay calm under pressure because he'd already lived those scenarios in his mind. You don't have to be an Olympian to use visualization. Before a big presentation or tough conversation, picture yourself handling it. Well, even better, visualize how you'll respond if things go wrong. That way, when life inevitably throws curveballs, you're ready. For reflection to work, it has to be honest but compassionate. Too many people turn self-reflection into self-flagellation. They replay mistakes endlessly, tell themselves harsh stories, and spiral into shame. That's not Stoic reflection, that's just rumination. The Stoics believed in separating facts from judgments. If you had a rough day, state the facts clearly. I missed a deadline. Then drop the judgment. Don't tack on, I'm lazy, or I'll never succeed. Instead, ask what factors led to the missed deadline and what you can change going forward. Treat yourself like a scientist gathering data, not a prosecutor building a case. One practical tip is to keep a reflection journal, but limit each entry to a single page. Start with 3 bullet points for highlights, 3 for lessons, and 3 for tomorrow's plan. This constraint forces you to be concise and keeps the habit sustainable. You can even use a notes app if you're more digital. The medium doesn't matter, the mindset does. Over time, these entries become a record of your growth. Looking back a few months later, you'll see patterns you couldn't spot in the moment. Maybe you notice that your best days always involve exercise, or that certain meetings consistently drain you. This awareness is powerful. You can't change what you don't see. Think of reflection like holding up a mirror to your mind. Without a mirror, you might have spinach in your teeth and never know. With a mirror, you see reality clearly and can adjust. The mirror doesn't judge you, it just reflects. In the same way, self-reflection gives you feedback without shame. It shows you where you're aligned with your values and where you've drifted. And like any mirror, it only works if you look into it regularly. A single deep reflection once a year's like glancing at your reflection once in January and expecting to look polished all year. It's the consistent, daily check-ins that create real change. Some people resist reflection because they're afraid of what they'll find. They worry it will open a Pandora's box of regrets or uncomfortable truths. But avoiding reflection doesn't erase those truths. It just keeps them lurking in the background. influencing you in ways you don't understand. Facing them head on is liberating. It's like cleaning out a messy garage. You might dread the process, but once it's done, you feel lighter and more in control. If you have kids, consider making reflection a family ritual. At dinner, each person can share one highlight of the day, one challenge, and one intention for tomorrow. This not only teaches kids emotional intelligence, but also creates connection. It's amazing how much closer families feel when they take 5 minutes to reflect together. For couples, a nightly check-in can prevent small misunderstandings from turning into big blow-ups. Instead of silently stewing, you create space to say, here's what went well, here's what was hard, and here's what I'd love to try tomorrow. Reflection also works in professional teams. Many successful companies hold retrospectives at the end of a project. They celebrate wins, analyze failures, and decide on improvements for next time. This isn't about assigning blame. It's about collective learning. Imagine if individuals did the same thing nightly. Over weeks and months, the compounding effect would be transformative. The beauty of Stoic reflection is that it's portable. You don't need fancy tools or a mountain retreat. You can do it in the car before walking into the house, in a notebook before bed, or even mentally while brushing your teeth. The key is consistency. Like physical exercise, the benefits come from regular reps, not occasional marathons. Even 2 minutes of focused review can shift your trajectory. When you start this practice, keep your expectations realistic. Some nights you'll feel energized by your progress. Other nights you'll feel frustrated by recurring patterns. That's normal. The point isn't to achieve perfection, but to stay engaged. Think of it like gardening. Some days you plant seeds, some days you pull weeds, some days you just water and wait. The garden doesn't judge you. It responds to your consistent care. Over time, reflection becomes less of a chore and more of a trusted friend. It grounds you when life gets chaotic. It reminds you that growth is possible, even when external circumstances are out of your control. And it reinforces a core, Stoic truth. You may not control the world, but you can always control your response to it. That control begins with awareness, and awareness begins with reflection. By taking a few minutes each day to look honestly at your life, you give yourself the chance to steer rather than drift. Like a skilled captain adjusting the sails, you may not control the wind, but you can always set your course. Money has a strange way of playing tricks on our minds. Most of us have experienced the rush of excitement that comes with a financial boost, a raise at work, a big bonus, or even winning a small amount from a lottery ticket. At first, it feels life-changing. You celebrate, you dream bigger, you maybe even splurge on something you've been wanting for a while. But give it a few weeks or months, and that thrill fades. The new salary that once felt huge now seems just normal. That extra cash doesn't feel like extra anymore. It becomes the new baseline. Suddenly, you're looking ahead to the next raise or the next big purchase, convinced that this will be the thing that finally makes you happy. This phenomenon has a name in psychology, the hedonic treadmill. Just like running on a treadmill, no matter how hard you push, you never actually get anywhere. You keep moving, keep chasing, but happiness always seems just a little bit ahead of you. Think about the first paycheck at your very first job. Maybe you were over the moon, proud to see the numbers in your bank account. Fast forward 6 months, and that same paycheck doesn't bring the same joy. Now you're comparing yourself to co-workers who make more, or friends who seem to have nicer cars and better vacations. Social media makes this even worse. You see highlight reels of other people's lives, perfect kitchens, exotic trips, luxury brands, and suddenly, what you have feels inadequate. That's the hedonic treadmill at work. No matter how much you acquire, you adapt to it, and then you crave more. It's why people with six-figure salaries can still feel broke, and billionaires can still feel like they don't have enough. The external circumstances change, but our internal expectations keep rising. The Stoics saw this, trapped centuries ago. They understood that happiness tied to external things, money, status, possessions, is fragile because those things are outside our control. Seneca put it perfectly. Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. In other words, true wealth isn't about how much you have. It's about how little you need to feel content. This doesn't mean you have to live in a cabin off the grid or renounce all material goods. It means shifting your definition of wealth from accumulation to sufficiency. Imagine two people. One earns $500,000 a year, but spends $520,000, constantly stressed about debt and chasing the next promotion. The other earns $60,000 a year, lives modestly, and feels rich because their needs are simple and their time is their own. By Stoic standards, the second person is far wealthier. They have freedom, peace of mind, and the ability to enjoy what they already possess. The first person, despite their impressive paycheck, is a prisoner to their desires. So, what does Stoic wealth look like in practice? It's a broader, deeper concept than just money. It includes health, because no amount of cash can replace a failing body. It includes time, because time is the one resource you can never earn back. It includes freedom, the ability to make choices without being enslaved by debts, toxic jobs, or societal pressures. It includes relationships, the kind of connections that give life meaning: friends, family, community. And most importantly, it includes purpose. Without a sense of why you're doing what you're doing, even a fortune feels empty. Look at the modern world. Many people grind themselves into exhaustion for higher salaries, only to sacrifice their health, relationships, and happiness in the process. They tell themselves, once I hit this income level, then I'll slow down and enjoy life. But that day rarely comes. As soon as they hit one milestone, another appears. This is why you see wealthy executives in their 50s having heart attacks, or celebrities with seemingly perfect lives falling into depression. They reached the summit of external success, but neglected their internal well-being. Breaking free from the hedonic treadmill requires conscious effort. One powerful tool is gratitude. When you regularly take time to notice and appreciate what you already have, you shift your focus from scarcity to abundance. Studies show that writing down 3 things you're grateful for each day can significantly improve happiness and reduce stress. Gratitude is like an antidote to the constant craving for more. For example, instead of scrolling through Instagram and feeling envious of someone's tropical vacation, you might pause to appreciate the comfort of your own home, the friends who check in on you, or the simple joy of a hot cup of coffee in the morning. It sounds small, but over time, it rewires your brain to see enoughness instead of lack. Another practice is to spend money intentionally, especially on experiences rather than things. Research consistently shows that people derive more lasting happiness from experiences like travel, concerts, or shared meals than from material possessions. A new phone might thrill you for a few weeks, but soon it's just another object you take for granted. A weekend camping trip with friends, on the other hand, creates memories you revisit for years. The key is to align spending with your values. If community matters to you, maybe you budget for regular dinners with loved ones. If learning excites you, invest in classes or books. The goal isn't to stop spending entirely, but to make sure your money supports the life you actually want, not the one advertisers sell you. Then there's the practice of giving back. Some of the wealthiest people on the planet have discovered that generosity brings a deeper sense of fulfillment than personal luxury ever could. Bill Gates and Warren Buffett famously pledged to give away the majority of their fortunes through philanthropy. Gates has said that solving problems like disease and poverty brings him a sense of purpose far greater than buying another yacht or mansion. Even if you don't have billions to give, the principle holds. Donating to a local food bank, mentoring someone just starting their career, or volunteering your time can create a ripple effect of meaning in your life and others. It shifts the focus from what can I get to what can I contribute. I once knew a freelancer who was obsessed with the latest gadgets and subscription services. His digital life was overflowing multiple streaming platforms, expensive productivity apps, top-of-the-line gear. But he was always stressed about money and felt like he never had enough. Eventually, he decided to simplify. He canceled most of his subscriptions, sold extra equipment he didn't use, and kept only what truly added value. With fewer distractions, he not only saved money, but also found himself more focused and creative. By choosing simplicity over constant consumption, he felt wealthier even though his actual income hadn't changed. That's the essence of Stoic wealth: clarity and freedom, not clutter and craving. Of course, living this way doesn't mean rejecting ambition or financial growth. Stoicism isn't anti-money. It simply asks you to see money for what it is: a tool, not a savior. Money can buy comfort, options, and opportunities, but it cannot buy inner peace or lasting happiness. Plenty of people with modest incomes live deeply fulfilling lives because they've cultivated meaning and connection. Conversely, many who seem to have it all are miserable because they've built their lives around external markers of success while neglecting their inner world. The key is to focus on what you can control: your actions, your choices, your attitude. You can't always control the economy, your boss's decisions, or unexpected expenses, but you can control how you respond. Instead of obsessing over fluctuations in your bank account, you can focus on living within your means, nurturing relationships, maintaining your health, and using your time wisely. When you see money as a servant rather than a master, you free yourself from the anxiety that comes from chasing endlessly shifting goals. Imagine two people with the exact same financial setback. Both lose their jobs unexpectedly. One panics, spirals into self-blame, and clings to their identity as their title and paycheck. The other takes a deep breath, acknowledges the loss, and starts making a plan, updating their resume, reaching out to contacts, and re-evaluating their priorities. The external event is the same, but the internal experience is radically different. The second person embodies Stoic resilience by focusing on controllable actions, rather than the uncontrollable outcome. The modern world constantly bombards us with messages that equate self-worth with net worth. Advertisements tell us we're one purchase away from happiness. Social media encourages endless comparison, even while meaning family members might measure success in terms of salary, house size, or car brand. It takes courage to step off that treadmill and define wealth on your own terms. But when you do, life becomes lighter. You realize you don't need to win someone else's game to feel fulfilled. You can create a different scorecard, one that measures things like kindness, growth, creativity, and contribution. One practical exercise is to list your top 5 values, then examine your spending and schedule. Do they align? If you say family is a top value, but you're always too busy working overtime to see your kids, there's a disconnect. If health matters, but you never prioritize rest or movement, that's another red flag. Aligning money and time with values is an ongoing process, but even small shifts make a big difference. For instance, cutting back on luxury purchases might free up funds for a family vacation or give you the flexibility to reduce work hours and reclaim your evenings. At its heart, the Stoic approach to money isn't about restriction, it's about liberation. It's the freedom that comes from realizing you already have enough that you don't need to chase endlessly to prove your worth. It's the power to use money deliberately rather than being used by it. When you adopt this mindset, you can enjoy material comforts without clinging to them, pursue career goals without losing yourself, and weather financial storms without collapsing. We live in a culture that celebrates accumulation, but the real victory lies in mastery of desire. The hedonic treadmill will always be there, whispering that happiness is just one more raise, one more gadget, one more upgrade away. Stoic wealth is stepping off that treadmill and walking your own path. It's looking at your life and seeing abundance, not because you've collected everything, but because you've learned to want less and appreciate more. In doing so, you become truly rich, not just in dollars, but in freedom, peace, and purpose. Deep understanding begins with curiosity. Most people stop at the surface, asking only, "What is this?" or "What happened?" That's fine for quick fixes, but it doesn't lead to real wisdom or meaningful growth. A Stoic mindset pushes you to go further, to ask the deeper questions. Why did this happen? And how does this really work? This approach isn't just about gathering facts. It's about seeing the patterns beneath the noise and connecting dots that others miss. Richard Feynman, one of the most brilliant physicists of the 20th century, famously said, "You are the easiest person to fool." What he meant is that our minds are naturally biased toward easy answers and comforting narratives. We love to think we understand something when, in reality, we've barely scratched the surface. The real danger isn't being fooled by others, it's being fooled by yourself. Take programming as an example. A junior developer might fix a bug by trial and error, swapping lines of code until the problem disappears. That's asking the what question: what can I do to make this error go away? A senior developer, on the other hand, digs deeper. They want to know why the bug appeared in the first place. Was there a flaw in the system design? A misunderstanding of user behavior? A lack of proper testing? By going beyond the immediate fix and examining root causes, they prevent similar issues from recurring. This is true, deep understanding. It takes longer in the short term, but saves countless hours in the long run. In life, the same principle applies. When you face recurring problems, conflicts in relationships, career dissatisfaction, anxiety, you can either patch the symptoms or explore the root causes. The latter requires courage and patience, but it's the only path to lasting change. Developing deep understanding also means challenging assumptions. We all carry mental models shaped by our upbringing, culture, and past experiences. These models are like invisible filters that color how we see the world. If you never question them, you end up living inside a bubble of untested beliefs. For instance, many people assume that success is defined by external markers like salary, title, or social status. They chase these things without ever asking why they matter to them personally. A Stoic thinker pauses and interrogates those assumptions. Why do I want this promotion? Is it because it aligns with my values? Or because I'm seeking validation? This kind of self-inquiry can feel uncomfortable because it often reveals that our motivations are more about ego than truth. But that discomfort is a sign of growth. The more you examine your beliefs, the more you free yourself from invisible constraints. One way to practice deep understanding is through deliberate questioning. Instead of accepting the first answer that comes to mind, keep asking why. This is similar to the 5 whys technique used in problem-solving frameworks. For example, let's say you feel burned out at work. Why? Because you're overloaded with tasks. Why are you overloaded? Because you keep saying yes to everything. Why do you keep saying yes? Because you're afraid of disappointing people. Why are you afraid of disappointing people? Because you believe your worth depends on others' approval. Why do you believe that? Because growing up, you only receive praise when you achieve something. By the 5th why, you're no longer talking about tasks, you're uncovering deep-seated beliefs about self-worth. This level of insight allows you to address the real issue rather than just rearranging your schedule. But understanding alone isn't enough. You also need intrinsic motivation, the kind of drive that comes from within rather than from external rewards. Most of us are conditioned to chase gold stars, grades in school, likes on social media, praise from bosses, applause from crowds. These external motivators can be powerful, but they're fragile. They fade quickly and leave you feeling empty. True fulfillment comes from doing things because they matter to you, regardless of whether anyone else notices. This is why so many people feel lost after achieving a big external milestone. They expected the promotion, the award, or the public recognition to bring lasting happiness, but it doesn't. The thrill fades, and they're left asking, now what? Finding intrinsic motivation starts with identifying your core values. These are the principles that matter most to you, independent of trends or peer pressure. For some people, core values might include creativity, integrity, family, service, or learning. For others, they might be adventure, growth, or compassion. The key is that they are yours, not borrowed from society's expectations. Once you know your values, you can use them as a compass. When faced with decisions, you ask, does this align with my core values? This clarity protects you from being swayed by fleeting desires or external validation. There's also the concept of flow, popularized by psychologist Mihai Csikszentmihalyi. Flow is that magical state where you're so immersed in an activity that you lose track of time. It's challenging enough to keep you engaged, but not so overwhelming that you feel anxious. Athletes call it being in the zone. Musicians feel it when they're lost in a performance. Writers experience it when the words seem to pour out effortlessly. Flow is a sign that you're doing something intrinsically meaningful. It's not about the outcome or the reward, it's about the pure joy of the process. When you align your work or hobbies with activities that induce flow, motivation becomes self-sustaining. Consider the story of an artist who paints not for fame or gallery openings, but simply because creating brings her alive. Even if no one ever sees her work, she would still paint because the act itself fulfills her. Contrast this with an artist who paints primarily to win awards or sell pieces. The second artist might produce impressive work, but their happiness is tied to external factors they can't control: critics' opinions, market trends, public tastes. The first artist, grounded in intrinsic motivation, has a more stable and authentic sense of fulfillment. This principle applies to countless fields. In the tech world, there are developers who contribute to open source projects purely out of passion. They spend evenings and weekends writing code, sharing knowledge, and helping strangers online, not because it boosts their resume or earns them money, but because they believe in the power of community and learning. Ironically, these developers often end up advancing their careers anyway, because intrinsic motivation tends to produce higher quality work than extrinsic pressure. But even if no one ever rewarded them, they would keep contributing because the work itself is the reward. To cultivate intrinsic motivation, try a few practical exercises. First, write down the 5 values that feel most important to you. Be honest, don't write what you think you should value. Once you have the list, reflect on how your current life aligns with those values. Are you spending your time and energy on things that truly matter to you? Or are you living according to someone else's script? This exercise can be eye-opening. For instance, you might realize you say family is a top value, but spend most of your waking hours at a job you dislike, leaving little energy for loved ones. That awareness is the first step toward realignment. Second, choose one project or activity to pursue purely for love, not for profit or recognition. It could be learning a musical instrument, volunteering at an animal shelter, writing a personal essay, or starting a garden. The point is to remind yourself what it feels like to do something simply because it brings you joy. In a culture obsessed with monetizing every hobby, protecting a space for pure passion is revolutionary. It strengthens the muscle of intrinsic motivation. Third, practice what I call question storming. Set a timer for 10 minutes and write down as many why questions as you can about a challenge you're facing. Don't try to answer them, yet just generate questions. This exercise helps you break out of linear thinking and uncover hidden assumptions. For example, if you're unhappy at work, your list might include, why did I take this job in the first place? Why do I believe success looks like climbing the corporate ladder? Why do I fear changing careers? Why do I stay silent in meetings? Why do I procrastinate on certain tasks? By seeing all these questions laid out, you begin to see patterns. Some will point toward practical solutions, while others will reveal deeper beliefs that need examination. Developing deep understanding and intrinsic motivation is like building a strong internal foundation. External events, layoffs, breakups, economic downturns will still happen, but they won't shake you as much. When your sense of worth comes from within, you become resilient. Imagine a tree with deep roots. Storms may bend its branches, but the tree stands firm because its roots anchor it. People without inner grounding are like shallow-rooted trees. They might look fine on the surface, but the first strong wind knocks them over. In practical terms, this inner strength shows up in everyday life. Suppose a colleague criticizes your work harshly. If your motivation is external, you might crumble, taking their opinion as a reflection of your worth. You either lash out defensively or retreat into self-doubt. But if your motivation is internal, you can pause, evaluate the feedback objectively, and decide whether it's useful. You still feel the sting. Stoicism doesn't mean becoming a robot, but you don't let it define you. You know who you are and why you do what you do. This clarity allows you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Similarly, when you understand your own patterns deeply, you stop being surprised by them. If you know that you tend to overcommit because you crave approval, you can catch yourself before saying yes to another project. If you understand that your procrastination comes from fear of failure, you can address the fear rather than just forcing yourself to work harder. Self-knowledge turns blind spots into growth opportunities. One of the biggest misconceptions about Stoic thinking is that it's about suppressing emotion. In reality, Stoicism encourages full awareness of emotions, but with a layer of analysis. When you feel anger, instead of acting on it blindly, you step back and ask, why am I angry? What value of mine feels threatened? What story am I telling myself about this situation? This reflective pause is the essence of deep understanding. It transforms emotions from tyrants into teachers. Modern society makes this kind of inner work challenging. We live in a constant stream of notifications, advertisements, and comparison triggers. It's easy to drown in external noise and forget to listen inward. That's why practices like journaling, meditation, or even just unplugged walks are so valuable. They create space for introspection. Even 5 minutes a day spent in quiet reflection can sharpen your self-awareness and reconnect you to your core values. As you deepen your understanding and strengthen your intrinsic motivation, you may find that some external goals fall away. Maybe you no longer care about impressing certain people or keeping up with certain trends. This can feel disorienting at first, especially if you've built your identity around external achievements. But over time, it becomes liberating. You realize that you don't need constant applause or validation to feel whole. You become less reactive to the ups and downs of fortune because your sense of purpose is stable. The ultimate goal is to live in alignment with your inner truth. When you know yourself deeply and act from that place, you experience a quiet confidence that no one can give or take away. Challenges still come, but they don't define you. Praise feels nice, but it doesn't intoxicate you. Criticism stings, but it doesn't destroy you. You move through life with a steady center, like a sailor navigating rough seas with a reliable compass. That compass is built through the twin practices of deep understanding and intrinsic motivation. When you cultivate these qualities, you don't just survive the storms of life, you thrive in spite of them. Simplicity isn't about living with nothing. It's about living without the unnecessary. In practice, that means subtracting what distracts so you can apply what matters. Modern life pushes the opposite: more apps, more tabs, more notifications, more urgent commitments that scatter attention into confetti. The simplest way to reclaim control is to treat your time and energy like a finite budget. Every yes is a spend. If it isn't a hell, yes, it's a no. That line isn't about being edgy. It's a filter. It forces you to reject the almost good, so the truly important has space to breathe. When you adopt it, your calendar changes, your desk changes, your browser changes, and your mind changes. You stop optimizing chaos and start removing it. Start with the tangible, because physical clutter is the gateway to mental clutter. Look at one room, one surface, one drawer. Ask a few blunt questions. Do I use this? Does it serve a real purpose? Would I buy it again today? If not, it goes. Don't debate sentimental value. 4 hours. Take a picture and let the object go. Keep the tools you reach for weekly, the items you love, and the things that obviously enable your mission. Everything else is rent you pay in dust, decision fatigue, and visual noise. People underestimate how much a clean physical environment lowers the brain's background anxiety. A clear desk makes starting work feel lighter. A simple kitchen makes eating healthy the default. Order isn't vanity, it's leverage. Then attack digital clutter with the same honesty. An inbox with 3,000 unread emails is not a personality trait, it's a drain. Create 3 buckets due today, waiting on, archive, and move quickly. Unsubscribe from what you never read. Turn off all badges. Remove social apps from your home screen or put them behind a password. Decide when you'll check them, not if you'll check them. Batch similar tasks so your brain doesn't thrash. Email at 11 and 4, messages after lunch, Slack on set windows. The goal isn't to be unreachable, it's to be reachable on purpose. Screen time isn't evil, but unplanned screen time eats the hours you meant to spend on the things you claim matter. Guard your mornings like prime real estate. If you don't, the internet will sublet them. Mental decluttering is the quiet engine of this whole approach. You can have a spotless room and an empty inbox and still be wrecked by a loop of negative self-talk and second-guessing. A simple practice here is thought labeling. Catch the story, name it, and return to reality. I always mess this up becomes catastrophizing. They didn't reply. They must hate my work becomes mind-reading. Labeling doesn't solve everything, but it breaks the trance. Pair that with a replacement question, what's the next single action that moves this forward? Long ruminations collapse fast when you anchor them to a concrete step. You don't have to win the war in your head. You have to win the next moment on your calendar. Simplicity fails when it becomes aesthetic cosplay. The point isn't a monochrome closet or a perfectly curated desk photo. The point is throughput, making ideas and commitments move with less friction. That's where the Stoic 3 trainings plug in. The training of desire is choosing the right aims. The training of action is executing on those aims. The training of assent is governing your interpretations so you don't get hijacked by bad narratives. Tie these to simplicity and you get a working system, not a mood board. Desire is where most complexity sneaks in. Wanting everything is indistinguishable from wanting nothing because it guarantees diffusion. Choose fewer aims and let them be specific. Get healthier is vague. Walk 8,000 steps and cook dinner 5 nights this week is actionable. Be a better parent is noble. Phones off at dinner, 20 minutes of reading at bedtime is real. You're not lowering ambition by clarifying it. You're making ambition executable. A simple life with sharp aims beats a busy life with blurry ones. Action is the translation layer. The simplest tactic is schedule the struggle. Anything that matters gets a block on the calendar, not a spot on a wish list. If deep work is important, book it like a meeting with yourself, door closed, distractions off, timer on. If training matters, choose days and times in advance like a class you've already paid for. Strip the friction from starting. Preload the file you'll work on. Put your running shoes by the door. Write the first sentence the night before. Momentum loves pre-commitment. You don't need motivation to start. You need fewer steps between you and the start. Assent is where simplicity becomes durable. Something goes wrong, a client nitpicks, a sprint slips. Your kid wakes up sick and your brain fires off instant commentary. This is where you choose which thoughts to grant authority. You can assent to "this always happens, I'm doomed," or you can assent to "unlucky sprint, what's the next best move?" Same facts, different assent, different morning. Guarding assent is mental hygiene. It's not pretending everything is fine. It's refusing to dignify thoughts that make you worse at the problem in front of you. Mantras help, not as magic, but as pattern interrupters. This too shall pass is a pressure relief valve in 3 seconds. Under stress, your working memory shrinks, language can widen it again. When a deploy is breaking and Slack is lighting up, saying slow is smooth, smooth is fast. Remind your hands to move in the right order. In a mid-race bonk, one more telephone pole shrinks the task to something finishable. Before an exam, read the question, mark the givens, write the plan, beats, don't blow it. Mantras are mini protocols. They keep you inside your lane when the wind gusts. If you want proof, watch a developer under heavy load. The logs are spitting errors, PMs want ETAs, and a Slack thread is arguing about rollbacks. The developer who keeps a simple mantra, reproduce, isolate, fix, test, deploy moves faster than the one who multitasks panic. They start by reproducing locally. If they can't, they create the smallest failing case. They isolate the component, write a guard test, make the minimal change, run the suite, and then deploy behind a feature flag. They narrate as they go so the team stays oriented. That isn't fancy, it's simple, and that's why it scales under pressure. Simplicity also shines at home. A family that declares a tech-free weekend, even once a month, discovers space they forgot existed. There's initial withdrawal phantom phone grabs, the itch to check sports scores or group chats. Then the quiet shows up. Board games come out. Bikes appear. The backyard gets used. Conversations stretch past, "How was your day?" to stories and plans and dumb jokes that become inside jokes. No one writes a Medium post about it, but the family remembers the feeling, and that feeling is the point. You don't have to go off the grid. You could go off the feed. If everything above sounds austere, bring back joy by design. Simple doesn't mean joyless. It means intentional. Keep the playlist that makes you feel like you can lift the house. Keep the Sunday pancakes. Keep the weird hobby that looks inefficient on paper but makes you creative on Monday. The mistake is thinking simplicity is subtraction only. It's subtraction first, so you can add the right things next. Take the calendar test. Open it and ask for each recurring block. Does this directly serve my chosen aims or my chosen people? If not, kill it or shrink it. Replace vague meetings with specific agendas or asynchronous updates. Replace status calls with a short, written report. Protect a no-meeting block for deep work. Hold one slot per week for white space, unstructured time where ideas collide. The calendar tells the truth about your priorities more than your mouth does. Edit it like a budget. Do the same with your phone. Make the home screen boring. Phone, messages, maps, camera, calendar. Move everything else off page 1. Use focus modes work. Family. Sleep with different app access and notification settings. Let your device help you be who you're trying to be at that hour. People will adapt to your new rhythms faster than you think if you're consistent and clear. I check email at 11 and 4. Call me if it's urgent. You're not being difficult. You're being legible. Food and sleep are simplicity's unsung allies. Over-engineer either, and you'll quit. Keep them simple and they'll carry you. Batch cook 2 easy dinners on Sunday. Eat the same decent breakfast on weekdays. Set a non-negotiable lights out range. Keep the bedroom cool and dark. Charge phones elsewhere. The ROI on those boring choices beats the ROI on the 15th productivity app you thought would save you. Workflows get simpler when you constrain tools. Limit your stack on purpose. Fewer project boards, fewer node apps, fewer file types. Pick a task system and make peace with its imperfections. Pick a knowledge base and map it. Create one today. List that lives in one place. Make your naming conventions boring and consistent. Keep your Git branching model simple. Every extra choice is a tax. You're trying to ship, not audition your tooling. If you lead people, institutionalize simplicity. Write a one-page operating document. How we communicate when we sync, how we escalate, what urgent means here. Decide meeting default start 5. Past and 5 before document decisions assign owners. Reward deletion as much as addition. Praise the engineer who removes 400 lines as loudly as the one who adds 4,000. Celebrate less, but better in demos. Cultures that glorify complexity burn out talent. Cultures that glorify clarity keep it. When simplicity meets the 3 trainings, even setbacks become tractable. A launch slips. Desire. Restate the aim to light the user without debt will regret. Action. Cut scope surgically. Stage the release. Communicate early. Assent. Refuse the story that we failed. Assent to, we learned exactly where our estimates lied. Here's the fix. This isn't spin, it's control. You're choosing the interpretation that keeps the team effective. For students, the same pattern applies. Desire. Pass the class with understanding, not just a grade. Action. Build a weekly study block. Teach the material to a friend. Do spaced repetition instead of cramming. Assent. When a quiz goes badly, don't assent to "I'm not a math person." Assent to "I didn't space my practice. Here's my new schedule." Simplicity: 1 notebook per class, 1 calendar. Phone out of sight during study blocks. The results look like discipline from the outside. On the inside, it feels like less drag. In sports, simplicity wins under stress. A runner bonks at mile 18. Desire: finish strong, not perfectly. Action: gel sip, shorten stride, count breaths, pick the runner in blue to reel in. Assent: drop the story, "I blew my race." Pick, "I'm in the race." This is the part one trained for. Mantra: light feet, tall chest, 1 more mailbox. The brain wants to negotiate. The mantra refuses the negotiation. The nice thing about simple systems is that they survive bad days. You don't need inspiration to follow a rule you wrote when you were calm. Phone stays off home screen until after the first deep work block. No new projects on Fridays. Say no to any invite without an agenda. If I'm tired, I walk for 10 minutes before I decide to skip the gym. These are guardrails. You still wobble, but you don't drive off the cliff. You'll get pushback from yourself, from others. Complexity flatters ego. It makes us feel needed. Saying no threatens that story. Expect the discomfort and keep the boundary anyway. When you cut the 6th meeting, someone will call you hard to reach. When you stop responding in 90 seconds, someone will say you're slipping. Give a few weeks. The cycle resets. People accommodate your clarity, and your output proves the point. Being dependable beats being instantly available. There's a hidden joy in subtraction, the moment you notice you're less tired by the same work. That's your signal you're on the right track. Fewer inputs, fewer switches, fewer half starts, more finishes. You close the laptop with gas left in the tank. Your evenings are not recovery wards. They're part of your life again. The conversations get longer. The workouts get better. The sleep gets deeper. Very little of that comes from trying harder. Most of it comes from removing friction and refusing noise. If you need a starting line today, pick 1 square foot and 1 rule. Clear the nightstand and make a no phone in bed rule. Or clean the desktop and decide. You'll close the day with a 2-minute tidy. Or put your email on 2 windows a day and set an autoresponder that tells people when those windows are. Or choose a mantra you'll use when the wheels wobble. This too shall pass. One thing at a time. Do the next right thing. Small is not small if you do it every day. Simplicity and application are not separate moves. Simplicity is the precondition that lets application stick. When you strip away the trivial many, the vital few become obvious. When the vital few are obvious, the 3 trainings become easier to live. And when you live them, clear aims, scheduled execution, disciplined assent, you stop being tossed around by the day and start shaping it. That's the entire point. Less clutter, more control. Fewer inputs, better outputs. Fewer wants, deeper satisfaction. Remove what dulls you so you can do what defines you. One of the fastest ways to grow is to surround yourself with people who challenge you to think bigger and act better. Seneca said, associate with people who are likely to improve you. This isn't just about mentors in the formal sense. It includes anyone whose presence pushes you toward virtue and clarity instead of distraction and mediocrity. Books count, podcasts count, even historical figures count. Spending an hour reading Marcus Aurelius Meditations is like having a one-on-one session with a philosopher king. Listening to a podcast with a thoughtful thinker is like sitting in on a private lecture. If you can find a living mentor, someone a few steps ahead in the areas you care about, that's even better. The point is to actively curate your influences instead of passively absorbing whatever social media or the news feed throws at you. Your mind is like a garden. If you plant weeds, don't be surprised when weeds grow. Learning from the wise also protects you from reinventing the wheel. A business owner who mentors under a seasoned entrepreneur will avoid years of costly mistakes. A young athlete who studies elite performers' routines can skip the trial and error phase and go straight to what works. Even casual exposure matters. If you hang around people who treat gossip and negativity as sport, you'll start to do the same without noticing. If you hang around people who debate ideas, practice gratitude, and take responsibility for their actions, that becomes your norm. One practical step is to audit your inputs for a week. Whose voices are you letting into your head through books, shows, conversations, and scrolling? Then ask, do these voices improve me? If the answer is no, make changes. Replace one mindless podcast with a thoughtful one. Replace 20 minutes of doom scrolling with 20 minutes of a well-written book. Over time, these micro decisions add up to a profound shift in perspective. As you absorb the wisdom of others, you begin to see how the different pieces of Stoic practice fit together. The journey starts with your morning ritual. The way you begin sets the tone for everything that follows. Waking up with intention instead of chaos gives you a sense of control, movement, mindful breathing, journaling, and a quick reading of a Stoic passage can take as little as 15 minutes. It's like tuning an instrument before a concert. You can play without tuning, but you'll always be slightly off key. When your mornings are tuned, the rest of the day resonates more clearly. Reflection is the second key practice. At the end of each day, you look back with curiosity, not judgment. You highlight what went well to train gratitude. You analyze what went poorly to extract lessons, and you make a plan for tomorrow. This simple review keeps you from living on autopilot. It turns each day into a feedback loop. Without reflection, you might repeat the same mistakes for years. With reflection, you turn mistakes into stepping stones. It's like a sports team reviewing game tape, not to wallow in errors, but to play smarter next time. Money, in Stoic terms, is reframed completely. The culture screams that happiness comes from more. More income, more stuff, more status symbols. The Stoics remind us that the treadmill never stops. As soon as you get what you thought would make you happy, your expectations rise. True wealth isn't about accumulation, it's about sufficiency. It's the freedom that comes when you need less, not when you have more. A simple meal eaten in peace with people you love can feel richer than an extravagant feast surrounded by stress and pretense. When you see money as a tool instead of a master, you can use it wisely, spending on experiences that matter, giving generously, and avoiding the trap of endless comparison. Deep understanding is what keeps these practices from becoming shallow checklists. It's easy to copy someone else's morning routine or budgeting method without ever asking why. Stoicism challenges you to dig deeper. When you encounter a problem, don't just ask, "What can I do?" Ask, "Why does this problem exist? What beliefs are driving my actions?" Richard Feynman's warning applies here. You are the easiest person to fool. We often deceive ourselves with convenient stories. Deep understanding comes from questioning those stories until you see reality clearly. It also fuels intrinsic motivation. When you know your core values, you no longer need constant external validation. You work hard because the work matters to you, not because someone is watching. This inner drive is what carries you through setbacks and boredom. External rewards fade. Internal purpose endures. Simplicity ties everything together. Modern life is full of noise, too many commitments, too many apps, too many opinions. Simplicity is the art of subtraction. You clear physical clutter from your space so your mind can breathe. You clear digital clutter by setting boundaries around emails, notifications, and social media. Most importantly, you clear mental clutter by refusing to dwell on thoughts that don't serve you. Greg McKeown's advice is a useful filter. If it isn't a hell yes, it's a no. That goes for projects, relationships, even possessions. Simplifying creates room for focused action. It lets you apply the Stoic 3 trainings. Desire, choose worthy goals. Action, execute consistently. And assent, govern your interpretations so you stay calm and rational. A mantra like "this too shall pass" can act as a reset button when stress threatens to overwhelm you. These 5 pillars: morning ritual, reflection, redefined wealth, deep understanding, and simplicity aren't meant to be mastered overnight. Trying to overhaul your life in one sweep is a recipe for burnout. Instead, start small. Pick one practice and commit to it for a week. Maybe you just focus on journaling each morning. Once that feels natural, add evening reflection. The next month, tackle digital decluttering. Think of it like strength training. You don't walk into the gym and try to lift the heaviest weight on day one. You build, gradually letting your muscles and nervous system adapt. Stoa practice works the same way. It's better to go slow and stick with it than to sprint and quit. One practical method is to create a weekly Stoic challenge. Each week, choose one exercise to focus on. Week 1 might be keeping a gratitude list. Week 2 might be practicing voluntary discomfort, like taking a cold shower or skipping a luxury you normally take for granted. Week 3 might be having a difficult conversation you've been avoiding. At the end of each week, reflect on what you learned. This keeps the philosophy alive and personal. It's not just reading quotes. It's testing ideas in the laboratory of your life. There's a story of a friend who went through a dramatic transformation by applying these principles. A few years ago, he lost his job unexpectedly. It wasn't just a paycheck, it was his identity. For weeks, he spiraled anger, shame, sleepless nights. Then he stumbled upon a book of Stoic writings. At first, he rolled his eyes. The language felt ancient and stiff. But one line stuck with him: "You have power over your mind, not outside events." He began experimenting with small practices. He started journaling each morning to sort out his thoughts. He reflected each night, listing one thing he did well and one thing he wanted to improve. He simplified his spending and realized how much financial stress came from chasing appearances. As his understanding deepened, he began to feel a quiet sense of control returning. Months later, he launched a small business built around one of his passions. It didn't explode overnight, but it grew steadily. Today, he's not only financially stable again, but also more grounded than he ever was in his corporate job. He often says losing that job was the best thing that ever happened to him, because it forced him to stop living by external scripts and start living by his own values. Stories like his aren't rare. Stoicism has survived for centuries because it addresses universal human struggles: fear, desire, loss, uncertainty. The external details change. Roman senators wore togas. Modern workers wear hoodies. But the inner landscape remains the same. By practicing daily rituals, reflecting on your actions, redefining wealth, seeking deep understanding, and simplifying your environment, you build resilience. You become the kind of person who can face chaos without collapsing, who can succeed without arrogance, and who can fail without despair. The real challenge is not understanding these ideas intellectually, but embodying them consistently. It's easy to read Marcus Aurelius and nod in agreement. It's harder to remember his teachings when someone cuts you off in traffic or your project crashes at work. That's why Stoic practice emphasizes repetition. You don't meditate once and declare victory. You return to the practice daily, like sharpening a blade. Over time, the habits become second nature. When a crisis hits, you don't have to think about what to do. You simply act in accordance with your training. Epictetus captured this perfectly. First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. The order matters. You decide who you want to be: a calm parent, a principled leader, a curious learner. Then you align your actions with that decision. Every small choice becomes a vote for the identity you've chosen. This is how philosophy turns into a lived reality. In the end, living the Stoic journey is about participation, not perfection. You will slip. You will forget. You will get angry or anxious or tempted by shiny distractions. That's normal. The point isn't to become a flawless sage. It's to keep returning to the path. Each morning is a reset. Each evening reflection is a course correction. Over months and years, those tiny adjustments create a life of remarkable stability and meaning. The storms don't stop, but you become the kind of sailor who can navigate them with skill and grace. If you made it this far, take a moment to really appreciate what that means. You didn't just passively watch a video. You invested in yourself. You took the time to explore ideas that can reshape your mind, your habits, and ultimately, your entire life. That's rare in today's world, where most people would rather scroll endlessly than sit with deep truths. We've covered a lot of ground today. We started with a morning ritual, where you learn how to claim the first moments of your day and set a tone of clarity and intention. From there, we explored reflection, turning each day into a feedback loop of growth instead of just another page on the calendar. We tackled the slippery relationship between money and happiness, exposing the hedonic treadmill and redefining wealth as freedom and sufficiency rather than endless accumulation. We went deep into the realm of intrinsic motivation, showing how to break free from the need for external validation and instead fuel your life from the inside out. And we simplified everything, cutting through the clutter, physical, digital, and mental, so you can focus on what truly matters. Finally, we looked at how to live the Stoic journey, learning from wise mentors and role models, and taking small, consistent actions that compound over time. The question now is, what will you do with this knowledge? Because philosophy means nothing if it stays on the page, or in this case, in a video. Epictetus said, "First say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do." That's your challenge. Decide who you want to become, then take action, one small step at a time. Don't wait for the perfect moment. There is no perfect moment. The perfect moment is the one you create by acting today. Here's a simple way to begin. Pick one Stoic practice from this video and commit to it for the next 7 days. Maybe it's journaling each morning, or reflecting each night, or simplifying your digital life by deleting one distracting app. It doesn't have to be dramatic. Consistency beats intensity. A single drop of water, repeated over time, can carve through stone. Your habits work the same way. As you practice, expect resistance. Your mind will try to pull you back into old patterns. The world will tempt you with noise and distractions. When that happens, remember Marcus Aurelius. You have power over your mind, not outside events. You can't control what the world throws at you, but you can always control how you respond. That's the essence of Stoicism, not perfection, but presence. Not a life without storms, but a steady hand on the wheel as the storms rage. I want to share one last story. A friend of mine went through a devastating period a few years ago. He lost his job unexpectedly, his relationship ended, and his health was falling apart. He felt like everything he'd built had collapsed overnight. At first, he numbed himself with distractions, endless scrolling, binge watching, overdrinking. But none of it worked. One day, he came across a Stoic quote online. "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." That line hit him like a lightning bolt. He realized that while his circumstances were difficult, his own mind was multiplying the suffering by spinning stories of doom and hopelessness. He started small. Each morning, he wrote down 3 things he could control that day and 3 things he was grateful for. At night, he reflected on what went well and what he learned. He simplified his life, cutting out unnecessary expenses and commitments. Slowly, his perspective shifted. Within a year, he'd started a small business doing work he loved. Today, he's not only financially stable, but genuinely fulfilled. He credits Stoic practice with saving his life, not because it erased his problems, but because it gave him the strength to face them with clarity and courage. That's what I want for you. Not a perfect life, but a powerful one. A life where you are no longer at the mercy of external chaos. A life where you can face challenges with equanimity, enjoy pleasures without clinging, and walk through the world with quiet confidence. If this video resonated with you, if it sparked even a small shift in the way you see yourself and the world, please take a moment to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss future content. Share this video with a friend who might need it. It might be exactly the inspiration they're looking for. And if you want to go the extra mile, consider hitting the super thanks button below too. Support this channel. Your generosity helps us keep making long, in-depth videos like this without relying on ads or sponsorships. Most importantly, I want to hear from you. Drop a comment below, telling me which Stoic practice you're going to focus on first. Is it the morning ritual? Reflection? Simplifying your life? Your story might inspire someone else in this community to take there. First step 2. Remember, philosophy isn't about reading old books or memorizing quotes. It's about living. Every decision you make, every habit you build, is a chance to practice. You don't have to change your entire life overnight. You just have to start. So as you close this video and step back into your day, carry this with you. The storms will come. The world will be chaotic. But inside you, there's a calm center, a place of strength and clarity. Return to it again and again until it becomes who you are. And one last time, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and hit that super thanks button if you found value here. Together, we're building a community of thoughtful, resilient people who are ready to live with purpose and courage in a noisy world. Thank you for watching. Now go out there, take what you've learned, and live your Stoic journey.